Hey guys!
Hello!
It's Ebony and Emerald!
Hi!
Here from On the Warpath. So we're a family of 4 and we've been travelling around Australia for a long time now. And we have our channel where we do 2 main types of videos. So one type of the videos is you guys following us on our adventures around Australia, where we do heaps of awesome things like swim with whale sharks. And then the other type of video is intended to help you guys with planning if you want to do a big trip like this, or even a medium or small size trip like this too. We have videos like how much is it going to cost me, what things should I get, and we've had some requests for information on how we school our kids and what the different options are. So that's what this video is for. So we're just going to call it road schooling, and then we'll talk through what all of that means. In Australia, the 3 main options that you have are distance education,
which I do.
Then there's homeschooling, and then there's unschooling. Distance education is basically where you enroll your kids into a distance education school. And so that school has its kids all over the place. So it might have other kids who are travelling Australia as well. It might have kids who their parents needed to go overseas for whatever reason and they still want to do the Australian education curriculum. It might be kids who live in rural settings and they don't have a school there, and so they're part of this distance education school. So it's got all of your teachers and stuff, and it follows the normal curriculum for whatever state you're in. So Em goes to Sydney Distance Education Public School, and it follows the normal New South Wales curriculum, and they have all of their teachers there. It's just that all of the kids are dispersed everywhere else. Exactly. The second option is homeschooling. So with that, you're basically taking on the responsibilities of a school and you're doing it at home. So you're the principal, you're going to work out what the curriculum is for your kids, and you're the teacher as well. So with that one, you need to report back to, I think it's the Department of Education on, okay, well, if they're in this year, I know that at the end of the year they need to reach these milestones. Then you need to say, what is your curriculum going to be? What are you going to teach them to make sure that they hit those milestones? The third option is unschooling. Now, I don't have a huge amount of information on that because it's not something that I considered. I didn't even know it was actually available when we started. So if you're considering that, then do your own research on it. But it is available in some states. May not be all of them, but I think a lot of them do have it. In some states, you can just go to the principal and seek an exemption from school for like a year. Maybe even longer, I'm not sure. And it's really just a matter of the principal signing off on it. The idea around unschooling is that it's basically your child-led learning. So whatever their interests are, what they're passionate about, that's like what you focus on. And I think it's with the thinking that, well, if that's what they love and that's what they're good at, then that's going to set them up for life because that's what they're going to end up doing. Now we're going to talk through the pros and cons for each, bearing in mind this is just one perception. It's not right or wrong. It's just our perception. So with distance education, the reason why we wanted to do that was because we knew they were sending us the curriculum. They were sending us all the work that we had to do. We didn't, one, there was no effort involved because we didn't have to create that. 2, there was no uncertainty about, oh, are we making sure we're covering everything that we need to? We knew we were following the New South Wales curriculum for us. And 3, I don't know, I think they were the main 2 things, Em. They just made it easy. The cons, though, is that you have to follow that curriculum. It's just like a normal school. They give you the work and you get it done. And you've got timelines. So they say it has to be done by here, then that's when you got to do it. In saying that, our school has been super flexible. So if I've written back and said, like, I don't think that this is appropriate, she doesn't need to focus on this, they're like, okay, don't worry about that, give this a try, or don't worry about it at all. Or if we say, we're going to be on the gib, I'm sorry, we're not going to have access to anything, you're going to have to wait 3 weeks, they've been like, yeah, sweet, that's fine. So they've been super flexible. With homeschooling, the con to me was that I didn't know the curriculum. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know what the guys needed to learn for their years. In saying that though, there are so many forums and groups and stuff like on Facebook that you can join that give you heaps of support. So there's heaps of resources out there. You don't need to feel like that. The other thing is there's actually companies where you can just buy a curriculum from. The disadvantages are, one, in some states, you actually can't homeschool and then take them on the road. So in New South Wales, we didn't have the homeschooling option because they don't let you leave the state for homeschooling, because their idea is, well, your home is actually your home. It's not your van. It's a little bit old school, unfortunately. So we didn't have that option. But another pro to homeschooling, if you do have that option, is that you set your dates. Like, you don't have a, well, we need to submit it by here, and you set the curriculum so you can do it more based on the things that they enjoy.
Yeah.
One of the awesome things about homeschooling is it's focused on experiences compared to just classroom learning. So for example, if you wanted to learn about the Anzacs, you might want to cook Anzac biscuits with the kids. And while you're doing that, you could be discussing why it's done. You could read some books about it. You can watch some movies, and that would cover English, history, maths, and science. Then if you go a step further, you could take those Anzac biscuits to a nursing home to give them as gifts. So then you're adding well-being, a growth mindset, and connection. So all of this makes a highly rich learning experience. You can also tailor the learning to things that your kids are interested in, which means they're more likely to be engaged and want to learn. So for example, let's say you have a child who loves everything to do with human relationships, emotion, and psychology. If you weave those components into a subject, they'll be interested. You can also learn at their own pace without too much pressure, which is a huge benefit for confidence. It means they have no concept of if they're above or behind in anything, but just that they're improving and gaining skills that they're proud of.
So I think a lot of advantages. The application process, I'm not sure with homeschooling. You guys would need to look that up in your state if you have that option. Okay, and then unschooling, well,
The third one.
I think unschooling, same pros and cons as homeschooling, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to focus on distance education. It's probably very similar in all of the states, but we're going to talk about New South Wales because that's where we're from. So Emerald did all of year 3 and has pretty much finished
Year 4.
Year 4 as well. And then Ace has done kindy this year too. So we've got kind of 3 years for examples. So the application process, it was pretty simple, really. They gave you a bunch of forms, which was a bit overwhelming. It was like, oh my gosh, all these forms. But then when you sat down and got through them, it was pretty easy. You had to, I think, give like a bill or something to show your address. You needed to have gone and spoken to the school, and they needed to be across the fact that, yep, you're going to be going and doing distance ed, and then they give their approval in some other form as well. The most daunting thing was to give them an itinerary, because they say we need a 6-week itinerary of where you're going to be for the first 6 weeks. And I was like, oh, I don't know, because we don't like booking anything. But really, it's just a tick the box exercise for them. So and they don't actually use it once you start traveling. So it can change after you've been traveling for like a day. You say, oh, this has changed or whatever. So you just put in a draft of like 3 caravan parks that are kind of near where you think you're going and submit that, and you're away. So the application process is pretty simple. Before we started, we did go and meet with the teacher. So Em got to meet them face to face and have a chat. And then they set up a few apps in our iPhone and iPad before we hit the road.
So they send a whole term worth of schoolwork, but you split. There's 10 weeks in total in one term, so you split it all into 2 weeks. So once I've done my schoolwork, Mum scans it on this scanner thing, and
just my phone.
Yeah, or my iPad.
Yeah.
And then she submits it into this app that they give you, and then they send feedback, and then we burn the schoolwork. Pretty simple.
Very simple. Now there are weekly Zooms that the guys can join if they want to. We've only joined 2 of them ever.
Yeah.
So they're not compulsory, so it doesn't matter if you have internet or not, and it's not like, oh, I have to be ready for school at this time. You have total flexibility over when you're doing that schoolwork. Now, you're supposed to be doing about 4 hours of learning
Yeah.
a day. Now, that's not sit-down schoolwork, that's learning. And, I mean, we learn a hell of a lot at the beach, don't we, Em?
Yeah.
So our actual sit-down schoolwork would be
2 hours.
Yeah, probably 1 to 2 hours a day of actual sit-down, and that's 5 days a week. So with ACE, it's about the same. It's a less amount of work that he has to do in kindy, but because it takes him a bit longer, that's why it can take 1 to 2 hours a day for him. So I found in year 3, at the start of year 3, there was a lot more time that I had to sit with Em and go through the schoolwork together. But in year 4, I found Em's way more independent. And maybe it's because she's been doing that kind of schooling for longer that it's easier for her now. Or maybe it's just that extra year that she's just genuinely more independent. I'm not sure. But I can basically just give her the work and go, this is what you've got to get through today, and then she'll get on with it and do it and just ask me questions if she doesn't understand something. Whereas with Ace in kindy, we have to sit down next to him pretty much the whole time and go through all the work with him because, I mean, at the start he couldn't read, so you obviously have to read him all of the questions and you have to explain everything to him. So that's more time consuming from the adult's perspective. Have heard other families who have said, this is crazy, I'm sitting here for like 5 hours. So I think it really depends on which school you're enrolled with, what year the kids are in, who the teachers are, just like any school. It's a bit of the luck of the draw with that. Also, what your teaching style is, what the kids' learning style is. Are they happy to just sit down and learn for that amount of time? Are they wanting to get outside? What time of the day are you doing the learning? I don't know, I'm sure there's a bunch of other things that come into play with it. Go into it with your eyes wide open that it might not be that they just sit there for 2 hours and get it done. The thing is that we found that the curriculum we've been given was spot on. So it's got, you know, your basics of your maths and your English, but then the other subjects that they give you are super relevant for actually travelling. So, you know, we'll get given a module on national parks.
Or
Perfect.
Like Australian history or Aboriginal culture.
Which are things that you're learning so much about when you're travelling that it's perfect for that because you can talk about that as you're travelling. If we have received something where we're like, this is fluff, then we have just written back and said we don't think we should do this, and they've given us an exemption to not do those modules. So I would say have an open and just frank conversation with the school about your expectations at the start, and if it's not aligning to how you thought it would, just have a chat about it, because more than likely, well, hopefully you'll have the same experience, that they'll be flexible and understanding. I think the most important thing when you're planning it is to talk to the principal. So the principal at your school will know what the options are, what the application process is, how long it's going to take, etc., etc. So they're your first port of call. And then there are so many forums that you can join, like on Facebook and stuff, for other people to give you support and for you to get more information from. So if that helped, then I would suggest subscribing to our channel, because we often do these videos on things that help you planning. And if you want to follow our travels as well, then we do the videos on that too. So please subscribe, like, comment with any questions. Hope it helped. That's it. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.